Well, any system works well if the people love each other. I suppose because if they love each other, they will quickly move towards a system that they reckon is optimal. And because they care for each other, there won't be the conflict and the strife and the struggle. In other words, you can't reform society from the top down. It actually has to be from the bottom up. You see, you have to change in terms of economic theory. You need to change their utility function so that they definitely have an interpersonal utility function whereby, my utility is greatly reduced by knowing that you're in difficulties. And we don't want the failure of collective action, and there won't be if the whole of the community has the character of loving each other. Now listen to this from the book I've been reading. Right, this is from Ernst Bloch again, book I've been going through. Well, 3 books, although I've only looked at the last one. Even that was too much. This is the last page. I thought, well, let's start off with a conclusion. Well, I find he's actually very much into Marxist theory. In spite of the fact his analysis of religions was most enlightening at times. And this is on page 1376. Now I've included something here that lasts about 40 seconds. And I just want to take it out because it didn't seem to be relevant on reflection when I listened to this through. It's a sort of problem. I hesitate to edit things, but I'm going to this time because I was just fiddling with the numbers of the page. Okay. I just want to read you the last bit. True Genesis is not at the beginning, but at the end. He's got that in italics here. Well, the people who translated it anyway. And it starts to begin only when society and existence become radical. That is, when they grasp their roots. But the root of history is the working, creating human being who reshapes and overhauls the given facts. Once he's grasped himself and established what is his, without expropriation and alienation, in a real democracy, I should put there arises in the world something which shines into the childhood of all, and in which no one has yet been. Homeland. Okay, he's talking about the ideal socialist society, communism. You have to go through socialism to get to communism, I understand from my earlier studies in life. Probably why the Russian system went completely wrong. They tried to jump from a peasant culture to a communist system. If indeed, had they have gone through the socialist sections effectively, might not have worked anyway, of course. It may be that you always get someone seizing the helm, someone like Stalin, in the end, if not very early on, of course, in the case of Stalin. Well, my response to this was to say societies are not persons. A society is not a person, you see. It's a group of persons. So cannot simply be a loving society. Only love is optimal anyway. That's what you need. People that love each other. So that's where the solution lies. Well, that would be where the solution lies if you're meant to change this classroom into heaven. But it may be a very good classroom. It's hard for us to say, being the children in it. You know, maybe a very good school, the universe of uncertainty and change and so on. And therefore needed for some purpose. Yes. Yes, the book was The Principle of Hope by Ernst Bloch, B-L-O-C-H. Ernst is E-R-N-S-T. Ernst Bloch. I don't know how to pronounce it, but still. You remember the Pauline thing of faith, hope and charity. And the greatest of these is charity, and charity is King James' word for love in effect at the time. So, think of it, these things are actually linked, aren't they? I hope for something, which means I do actually want it, of course. I build trust in the possibility of getting it. I trust that it's feasible, possible, and if I don't, I stop hoping for it because I give up. And the more I hope for it, the more I love it. And the more I love it, I'm looking all the while for opportunities, ways of achieving it, aren't I? I'm totally focused on what I'm loving, you see. But supposing your hopes are really astray, I mean, utterly impractical, and even moving towards them, extremely troublesome, you know, absurd cost and no gain, very little gain, and a lot of problems perhaps. Well, fortunately, if you're schooling yourself to think on whatsoever's good and lovely, think on these things, you're thinking on, well, probably the good that's around you, that is a reality. And the more you look upon such, the more you appreciate and value such. In other words, your hopes are likely to be consistent with the good and the lovely that you see. And it's the hopes that you're going to pursue. And in a sense, they're more likely to be feasible because they're built on your experience of what you love in the life you're in. In other words, you're automatically, in some sense, pushing towards something that's feasible. You know, if you've appreciated a loving friendship, you value it. Even if you've lost it, you still value it and you're looking for it. You know you want it, you're hoping for it, you're looking out for it. You are highly likely to put your trust in opportunities that look as though they might bring such to you. See it, so there's faith, hope, and love. And they all follow from whatsoever's good and lovely. Think on these things. So this poor chap, Ernst, wasted 1,1400 pages and words that make me look like a person who can't speak at all. No, I don't know. Perhaps this was his life's work. I don't know how long it took him to write this lot. and some very helpful analysis and great insights into religion and so on. He pointed out clearly that it's only since the Babylonian exile, when they came back in, 600 BC and started rebuilding the temple and so on, we introduced this idea, I think, of there's a good and a bad God. There's Satan and his angels, which are demons, if you like, and there's a war going on, and the Persian thing was, well, each of these gods has a millennium each, 1,000 years each. And we see that cropping up in effect in the Christian religion, and in the end, where, we're trying to work out, is it Jesus' reign of 1,000 years going to be before or after the Great Tribulation? And, where's the judgment in all this and so forth, you see? And you realise, my goodness, all these major world religions that we're looking at, from anything from Buddhism through to Judaism and Christianity and Islam, all seem to be seeded by Persians, which was the Jason Reza Giorgiani thesis, and I've mentioned that elsewhere. An enlightening book by a secular author who believes in communism and Marxism, understanding of communism. Is there another? I'm not sure. But it's persons that count. Any system will be corrected and put right if the persons in it are loving. And if they're not, you can write constitutions and so on till you're blue in the face. It'll still be corrupted by unloving people who find ways around it. It's an eternal battle. We do have Western democracy, but goodness, what a lot of unhappy people in our society. What we need is people to be loving. In other words, it's a micro problem. We have to look to the individual, the person. And when you get that right, well, you'd had heaven on earth. You won't get that right, of course, because constantly getting new people coming into this world, and the good ones leaving along with the bad, no doubt, but perhaps a bad return, I don't know. Or to somewhere worse, of course. It's been the religious theory for a couple of thousand years or so, especially out east. I don't think it's the way to go. I mean, to be focused on changing society. You need to be focused on changing the individual. And even that's not valid. The individual changes himself in this system, in this world system, this good and bad and uncertainty and change and so on. They choose to change, which is why we don't like Bible-thumping religious fanatics that ram the word down our neck, down our throat. We can encourage others in as far as they're willing to tolerate the encouragement. We can put it on the menu, as it were, how to achieve fullness of personhood, maturity as we understand it, and we could be wrong. Just remotely possible, isn't it? We can always be available. What we can really do, of course, is follow our own values earnestly. And if others do the same, that seems to be the way to go. And we learn accordingly, don't we? Thank you, Heavenly Dad.